2025 is here. Can you believe it? The Under the Lights podcast is back. High school football is in the air once more. Opening week, finally here. And Under the Lights, the podcast, all the coverage, all week long, every week is back for more. What are we going to see this year? You got all kinds of storylines leading up to the 2025 season. Can a program like Hoover get back to that mountaintop that they've been trying so hard to get to recently? Clay Chalkville, fresh off a state championship, a little bit disappointing last year, they're trying to get back. What about a team like Vestavia Hills trying to break through that little ceiling that they've been punching up against the last 3 years? How about Hewitt-Trussville or Homewood, ready to make runs in the state playoffs this year? I'm out here at the site of our week 1 game of the week. Briarwood Christian School is going to host Oak Mountain. The possibilities are endless for the 11 teams in the Under the Lights area. We're going to get you ready for a great season, jam-packed, full of storylines. Let's get into it. First of all, if you haven't seen one of these, you better find one this week because they're out and about. They're all out in the communities. If you play at one of these schools, hopefully you've got one in your hands. If you're in the community, hopefully you start seeing them around town this week because there's all kinds of stuff in this magazine to get you ready for this fall and what it could bring. All right, so what we want to tell you about first, our presenting sponsor of the Under the Lights podcast all season long is going to be our friends at KEYSYS. KEYSYS, look, let's face it, AI is kind of starting to have a pretty heavy presence in our world, and KEYSYS can help you out with whatever you need in terms of AI. You got a business that you started up, KEYSYS can help you get started there. KEYSYSconsulting.com, the website on the screen for you as well. All right, so let's do this. 11 teams. We're going to talk about them a little bit before we get going here in this season. Let you hear from the coaches of all these teams. Let's start with the Hoover Bucks. Our Hoover coverage all season long going to be brought to you by South Lake Orthopedics. Less pain, more living. All right, Hoover, a much calmer offseason and summer this year. Chip English in his second year as the head coach, but first year as the full-time head coach. He's had a year to get under his feet in the role. So what can we expect? This team made it all the way to the semifinals a year ago, 10-3. That's where they expect to be every single year. But it's almost been 10 years since they've been able to get to that mountaintop. So the Bucks are looking to get back to that mountaintop. Chip English believes he has the team that could do that this year. Here's where he stands on the topic.
Feel that? Well, the big thing, when you say get back to the top of the mountain, right? Which we're obviously talking about from 2017 is the last time they won a state championship. We want to do that, but the reality of it is we're pretty high up there in the sense. I think 23 out of the last 25 years we made it to the semifinals. Mm-hmm. So when you look at the longevity of that success, we're on pace. Like we're where we want to be now. Winning those last 2 games, mm-hmm. right? That's what we're trying to define. Or trying to figure out, and I feel like we're doing that. But to get back, I don't think we ever left. Now, sure, winning the state championship, that's definitely where we want to be and our ultimate goal. But we're worried about the process. We're worried about coming every single day and being uncomfortable and thriving in those uncomfortable positions. And do I feel that? I always put pressure on myself. The administration is doing everything that they can to allow us the resources in order to do that. My staff is doing a great job of preparing the guys every single day, and ultimately the fan base, the parents, they want that too. But there's so many variables that go into all that stuff that people don't realize. You don't just come out here in August and go undefeated and win a state championship. So I think the true fans, the administration, our superintendent, they understand what it takes, and we're doing everything that we can. The reality of it is it's really tough to do. Yeah. Or a lot of people would do it. So we got to find a way to get over some of that semifinal stuff and obviously make it back to the show. But pressure is there, obviously, every year to do the best that you can. And the thing about it is when you have rosters like we do, a lot is expected of you. And a lot is expected of us as a staff. So excited about the challenge. The thing about it is there can't be false hope. And what I mean by that is you can't just say, hey, we need to win a championship, and then there's not work to be done, not only from a staff, player, but also the community. Also, because it takes funds, it takes fundraising, it takes fan involvement. It takes a lot of different factors in order to win that. And so I think everybody's up for the challenge. It's just finding ways to get over that.
Yeah. So
this year's captain,
Next up, let's talk about the Mountain Brook Spartans. Spartans coverage this year brought to you by our friends at Gun Dermatology. 2 locations in Mountain Brook. You know where to go for all of your skincare needs. All right, Mountain Brook is a team that is looking to get to the playoffs for the 10th straight year. Why not? I mean, Mountain Brook has the reigning Under the Lights All-South Metro Offensive Player of the Year returning in Stuart Andrews. You know Stuart's ready to tote the rock 30 times once again if he needs to. Caden Hoffbauer with a year under his belt at quarterback. And then, the defense is going to be rock solid as always. Coach Chris Yeager does such a great job. Let's hear what he thinks about his team heading into the year.
Well, the thing to me, like when I look at last year, reflecting back on it, you look at where you started and where you end up, and the bottom line, the difference between that really, that's the tale of your season, And I thought, and then the other thing too is, we had so many new players last year, within that time frame that we're talking about, what was the growth process. And, like when I look at that, the best things that happened to us last year were the games that we lost. I can honestly say that, when you're having success, if you're, success week in, week out, a lot of times, you have mistakes and you have areas that you need to clean up and get better at. You don't have a sense of urgency. You can kick the can down the road, and if you get by with it, and to me, when it comes up and those mistakes bite you, and you say we got to deal with them now, or this is going to keep happening over and over and over. But I thought the best thing that we did last year, by far, was how they responded to setbacks. No finger pointing. It was all accepting responsibility and and working together to get better. And to me, when I look at how we tracked from the first, from spring training until we finished our second game, man, I was so pleased with that team and so proud of that team. But I think the biggest thing, I think this group, they will take the things that they learned, from last year. The biggest thing that we learned last year was, every single down, counts. And if it goes wrong, you have to turn the page, move on to the next one, and give every bit of who you are and what you are to that single play. I think that's something that'll carry on to this season,
How about the Homewood Patriots? Our Homewood coverage this year is going to be brought to you by our friends at The Edge, a vibrant space for food, fun, and community in Homewood, suitable for the whole family. If you haven't been to The Edge, they got different live events going on every week. You need to go check it out, theedgehomewood.com, right off Green Springs. All right, so the Patriots, I got to tell you, I think they're going to be one of our best teams in the Under the Lights coverage area this year. Quarterback Caleb Carson is ready to take the reins full-time and really show what he can do. And he was really impressive in limited action a year ago. Will Myers got hurt a couple times. Caleb had to step in, and he shined really bright. So I'm looking for a big year for the Patriots. Let's hear what Coach Berg had to say about what makes Homewood football so special.
I think it's just the closeness of this community and our team. They do everything together, so they're really close. So they play for each other.
Yeah.
Caleb got a lot of experience last year, which gives him a lot of confidence going into this season.
Mm-hmm.
Really excited to tell you a little bit about the John Carroll Cavaliers this year. The Cavs coverage being brought to you by our friends at Barlow Wealth Advisory Group. Their tagline, we help people be successful in life and business. That's the core of what we do. Barlow-WAG.com is where you find out more information on them. All right, let's face it, the Cavs had a disappointing 2024 season. Man, 2023 was so good. And they were close in a lot of games last year. Head coach Will Mara believes that they can get back to that mark that had them at, 9-3 in 2023. So listen to what he has to say. Garrett Barnes back for a second year at starting quarterback. Cavs could be pretty good this year.
Not doing our job. And so that's been a big thing that we're harping on is every minute of every day of every rep, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's doing the running, the agility, the conditioning, or the 7-on-7 work or indie work or whatever it is, paying attention to those little tiny details and finishing all the way through. And that's 1%, because you never know when that 1% of the plays are going to bite you, and when that 1% of the play, or when that 1% play is going to pop up. And if we make that play, we win 4 or 5 more ball games, and the season's completely different. So that's been a big thing, and they understand that. And there were some growing last year. that needed to be done, especially coming off the year before where it was very senior heavy. And we've got another senior heavy group this year. I think we're sitting 23, 24 seniors that were all thrown into the fire last year and had to learn it and had to roll with it. So that's been a big theme for this summer is 1% and finishing.
All right, as we keep on rolling, don't forget KEYSYS can get custom AI solutions tailored to you. KEYSYSconsulting.com, proud presenting sponsor of the Under the Lights podcast all season long and all of our coverage. Let's talk about the team now that plays on the field right behind me, the Briarwood Christian School Lions. Matthew Forster has got a quarterback returning for the first time in several years, so he's excited about what Charles Dedman can do in this offense. And then the Lions have got Garrett Witherington anchoring that defensive line. He's a Kentucky commit. He's a really, really good player. All offenses have to key on him, and hopefully that opens up some space for a lot of other guys to make some plays. I mean, you think about in the defensive backfield, Sam Canale had a great finish to last season, followed it up with an impressive offseason. He's a player to watch. But this Briarwood team going to get back to the playoffs in 5A, I believe. Here's what Coach Forster thinks.
I mean, the biggest thing I did last year is it didn't deviate from the plan. Like, I didn't go bonkers. I didn't just change everything. It was the idea that if we show up and work hard every day, we can get better and we will improve. And so I think that was eye-opening for some of the guys. For me, it was a big test. I mean, I thought we were one of the better teams in 5A. We didn't play like it early. It cost us. So I've learned lessons from that. I mean, some lessons are I've got to have more guys ready early in the season. Got to make sure that we're ready to go with depth at the beginning of the year, because if you talk what hurt us the most, it's the lack of depth. So I changed the structure of this summer going into it and how we're going to attack it, and really focus in on the first 3 games. Like, in a lot of ways, with how quick the season gets on, you no longer are let's install our base offense, let's install our base defense, then let's get into a game plan. As we hey, you get a week or 2 in spring to learn your base stuff, and then when the summer comes around, you're really thinking game plan. And so, I think that was the biggest thing. Developing leadership will be another part of this. These seniors have done a great job of leading their position groups and then leading the offense and the defense. So that's a huge part of the summer and the development. So I'm really excited. I hate that we didn't get a shot in the playoffs, that we didn't do what we needed to get in, because I think we could have made some noise by the end of the season. But you live with a lot you're cast, and so we're going to do better this year.
Yeah.
If you ever talk to Chelsea head coach Todd Cassidy, he's a pretty level-headed guy. He doesn't get too high. Like last year when Chelsea started out 6-0, and it was such an encouraging time for the program. But at the same token, he doesn't get too discouraged when the Hornets lost their last 5 games of the year last year. The schedule really toughened up, and they played Sarah Lane in the first round of the playoffs, and that's a juggernaut. But what he does feel confident in is the team he's got back on the field this year, and that starts with Chase Malone at running back. He had a phenomenal year last year, over 1,600 yards. And if he can get Morgan Barnes healthy to complement his production in the backfield, this Chelsea running attack is going to be really, really good. We got some really good offensive linemen that have experience. Adam Brooks under center. Man, he's really good. You don't get by him. So this Chelsea team is going to be a really solid team, and they're going to look to get back to the playoffs again this year. Here's what Coach Cassidy has to say.
You guys are doing this year?
Yeah, but you don't really, it's a totally new team. So, and again, we're searching for those leaders of 2025's team. I mean, we lost some leaders from 2024's team.
Yeah.
So, I've never been a part of a team that really talked about last year's team much.
Yeah.
Even state championship teams, you don't want to carry that stuff over. So I feel like you're trying to create a whole new identity and a whole new self. So you don't really talk about that stuff. Where we went 6-0 and then 0-5. I think that'll probably get talked about maybe a little bit more during the season. But right now, you're trying to create your own identity right now.
If there's one thing Oak Mountain head coach Shane McComb does not lack, it's confidence. He's ready for the Eagles to start punching up. In his first year, they win 1 game, but last year they win 4 games, and he believes that this team is ready to start competing with the big boys in this region. All you have to do is look at last year as a prime example of this. I mean, out of their 10 games, Oak Mountain really only didn't show up in 1 of them. And so you got to be encouraged by the fact that even when they're outmanned, this Oak Mountain program is starting to show some signs of resurgence. And that is led by defensive back Jaden Aparicio. This guy is one of the rising 2027 defensive back prospects, not only in the state, but across the region and across the country. So watch out for him. This team is breaking in a new quarterback, but young guy, Charlie Vaccarella. You're going to want to know his name because I think he's going to be the next guy at Oak Mountain that could be the starter for the next 2 or 3 years. But here's what McComb had to say about this team competing for playoff contention this fall.
This is the year that playoffs are the goal.
Okay.
There's no doubt that it's gonna be tough to win 5 games at the same point, but I think we're gonna be good enough if we stay healthy and we do create some depth. Quarterback play is gonna be big. Replacing Will Odell is not easy.
Right.
We do have some guys that are competing, and I'm pretty excited about. But that are gonna be a younger position group for us. But if we can control the football, be smart with the football, I think we have more athletes overall around that position. We got Marty back, and we're older up front on the offensive line. We have more depth on the offensive line than we did last year. So I think overall, from a physical standpoint, we're taking a big jump on the offensive side of the ball with all 11.
Yeah.
Defensively, first rack, I think our back 7 is, as good as anybody in our league. We're very athletic in the 5 secondary spots. Our linebacker core is pretty strong. We do have a little bit of depth, but very young depth at the linebacker spot. Our secondary depth is working from the other side of the ball. There's not a lot of depth there. Up front on the defensive line, we have some size, but we are using rotation from the offensive side of the ball, so to create some more depth there too. But I think we've made a big jump from year 2 to year 3.
Yeah.
Physically and expectation-wise, to where we can start talking about this is the year our goal is to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
How about the Clay Chalkville Cougars? They are notorious for state championships over the last several years. This Cougars program so good. Now look, the last time they won state in 21, followed it up with a disappointing first-round loss in 22, comes back in 23, wins the state championship, and then last year in 24, only gets to the second round of the playoffs, which you've got a great thing going at Clay when a second-round playoff loss is kind of disappointing. But I'll tell you what, head coach Stuart Floyd entering his second year with the Cougars, he's got Aaron Fry back at quarterback, and in his first full year leading the offense, there was definitely some great signs, and if he can put it together consistently each week, this Clay Chalkville team is going to be really, really impressive. They got playmakers all over the place on both sides of the ball. How about wide receiver Corey Barber? If you remember him at Spain Park last year, he was electric, one of the best receivers in the state. Ole Miss commit now. He's transferred to Clay Chalkville and will be a big weapon for the Cougars. But here's what Coach Floyd had to say about his team entering the year ready to get back to that mountaintop.
Yeah, I think it's it's a new team, so I don't think the expectations have changed, or your goals have changed from year to year. I think there's definitely some things you kind of look back on from last year and just kind of try to pinpoint what those issues were, and then that's kind of what you try to correct in the spring and summertime. But I think now it's just you move on from that year, focus on this year because it's an entirely different makeup of a team, and just give it a run with this group and see what you can do.
What are some of those things that you've pinpointed and said, hey, we've got to do that better this year?
I think the overall consensus, I think, was just the maybe the leadership. You always want a player-led team, and I think we struggled with that at times. It's hard going back to back. Yeah, it just is, for a bunch of different reasons. But I think just getting that hunger back of it's one thing approaching the year with a championship. It's an entirely different thing without it. So maybe that hunger kind of comes back to you a little bit. So we'll see.
The Spain Park Jags are the team with the reigning Under the Lights All-South Metro Player of the Year. That's quarterback Brock Bradley. You've seen it all the way back to the end of his freshman year that he was going to be capable of having a great career, and he's done nothing but just that. An amazing junior year. He's going to try to follow it up with a greater senior year. You know, we just talked about Corey Barber transferring from Spain Park to Clay Chalk. Well, so the Jags are going to need some new guys to step up and be those weapons for Brock Bradley. But if there's any quarterback in the area that can make it happen, it's him. So will we see another 10-0 regular season from Tim Vakakis' program? Who knows? That's really hard to do no matter who you have and where you're playing. But this Jags team will still be a force in Class 6A.
Good at, you know, and I say it all the time. I don't think there's a better staff than the one we have in the state of Alabama. Like they're going to do what they got to do as a whole to put our kids in the best position to be successful. Whether it be a special team drill, a special team something, an offensive blocking, and you pick it. I have a lot of confidence in the staff to put the right pieces where they need to be. So I don't know, to answer your question, I don't know. I mean, I think once we get going, once we got going last year, we realized what we were good at. And about, early in the season, we realized this is what we were good at, and that's what we stuck to, and you go in with all these different ideas and all these different concepts and all this, but then you settle on what you're good at, so I don't know what we're good at yet, but I do know that when you have an elite quarterback, you got receivers that can run around and make plays. We got an offensive line. I feel like they're developing. I feel like we'll be okay offensively. But I don't know, to answer your question. I don't know what we're going to be good at yet. I don't know, but we got to figure it out.
If you knock at the proverbial door long enough, you're bound to break through eventually, and that's what head coach Robert Evans is looking for from his Vestavia Hills program. The last 3 years, they've been at the second round of the playoffs. They keep getting there and just can't quite break through because, let's face it, the top of Class 7A is just elite. And Vestavia Hills wants to join that club. So can they do it this fall? We will see. But the signs are there that they could be the team that makes it happen. Quarterback Charlie Tapp is back for his junior year. He improved so much last year as a sophomore. You kind of you get thrown into the fire as a sophomore, a young guy that has to learn against some elite competition right off the bat. Doesn't get a chance to settle in, but boy, he just improved so much throughout the year. And watch out, quarterback Price LeMaster may be number 2 QB on the depth chart, but the Rebels are going to use him in the offensive attack this fall. And you've got playmakers back on both sides that are going to help this Rebels team be really, really good. So watch out for them in Region 3. Here's a little bit from Coach Evans.
I think it's just a totally different version. We had 3 alphas last year defensively. This year, that remains to be seen. We're going to be better up front defensively, and we'll be better in parts of the secondary. But you don't lose with Spence Hanna and Jacob Watson, Bruno, those guys without probably taking some kind of step back. But we have to have leaders emerge just like every single year. Offensively, I do think we have a chance to be better. And the mandate really from my chair to our offensive staff is, hey, we got to figure out a way to get our best players on the field. Price LeMaster's backup quarterback, but he's one of our best players. And so him and Charlie need to be on the field at the same time, and we need to get really creative. And really Carson Purdy, who's be a starting running back, has a quarterback background as well. So we got 3 guys that can throw the ball. Purdy had a couple touchdown passes last year, and we need to be very creative offensively. And but I do think we feel like we have a chance to be more explosive and to play, do some quirky things this year.
Yeah. Finally, let's talk about the Hewitt Trustful Huskies. They've got the All-South Metro Defensive Player of the Year back in linebacker Parker Floyd. Parker Floyd has had an unbelievable career, over 100 tackles last year. He's just somebody that commands the middle of that Hewitt Trustful defense. This Huskies defense allowed fewer than 10 points per game last season. And if you know the competition that they play on a yearly basis, that's really impressive. Defensive coordinator Sean Talsman has done an incredible job with that defense, and look for much of the same from that defense again this year. Now at quarterback, Zach Benedict getting his chance as a senior. He's waited his turn. He's put in the reps. Josh Floyd, the head coach, believes he is ready to go, and he's going to have a bunch of weapons around him. Just in the backfield, you got Kentucky commit Deuce Austin. Out wide, he's got wide receiver Dylan Cope, a recent University of Virginia commit. You've also got athletes like James Kelly and C.J. Davis who can run the ball, who can catch the ball, who can do it all on offense. Check the defensive side of the ball. We mentioned Parker Floyd. How about Deontay Seals coming off the edge? That's nothing that any offensive lineman wants to deal with. So this Huskies team, look out for them this year. Here's what Josh Floyd has to say.
I mean, we're obviously our goal is to win a state championship and win, bring a blue map here. Mm-hmm. And we've been close over the years. We had 2 years ago, we're sitting in the semifinals. We're up, 10-0, have a chance, and then end up getting away from us at the end. So we know the challenge that it is. Again, I think you got to have two things. I mean, you got to have the leadership aspect that we're talking about, but you got to have players too.
Yeah.
You got to have talent. I mean, at this level in 7A football, just having a bunch of kids that work hard, just being real. I mean, that's you're going to be limited to what there's going to be a ceiling for that. And so the people we play have really good players. You know what I mean? And you have to play good in those moments. Mm-hmm. And, the thing that was disappointing really last year, everybody talks about the playoff game, but, we lost 2 games in the regular season. We lost one we feel like we shouldn't have lost in the last seconds, by 1. Mm-hmm. And then another one we lost by 5. We had opportunities to win that game. And so you all of a sudden go from this seed to this seed. Now you're driving for 4.5 hours to go play the first round game when you could have been hosting a first round game. You know what I mean? So those kind of things that I look back is like if we'd have taken care of business in the regular season, then we're not having to make that trip to go play a tougher game that first round. So, but I think, that's what we've got to have, from our guys this year. Yeah. But again, you've got to have that every day. So, again, I like where we're at right now.
Well, that's our 11 teams, and based on what it seems like entering the 2025 season, some of these programs are going to have great seasons, and a lot of them feel like they could be the ones to really rise up and be kind of the subject of a lot of those storylines that we're talking about all season long. So here's what you need to do. Follow us on X at @underlights365. We'll have updates on all of our games every Friday night, even some Thursday night games. And then we'll be posting all of our game recaps at the usual spots. The website where your community plays. We'll have them up there. We'll have them on our Under the Lights Facebook page. Search Under the Lights. You'll find us on Facebook as well. And then look, KEYSYS, tailored AI solutions for you or your business. KEYSYSconsulting.com. And finally, we're going to get you ready for week 1 now. Our game of the week is going to be at Lions Pride Stadium, Oak Mountain at Briarwood, a great county rivalry. It really sets the tone for these two teams, even though Briarwood's 5A, Oak Mountain's 7A. It's always a really good game. It's competitive. It's usually pretty low scoring. I kind of see it going that way again, but I will be out here on Friday night to check it out. Let's run through some of the other ones. Chelsea at home against Charles Henderson in week 1. Clay Chalville going on the road to Hueytown. Hewitt Trustful is going to host Jag out of Montgomery. The Battle of Lakeshore is going to be at Waldrop Stadium with John Carroll paying a visit to Homewood. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. John Carroll pulled off the upset a couple years ago to really set the tone for their great season. 8 o'clock on that Friday night, Hoover hosting IMG Academy, the powerhouse program out of Florida. That's going to be on ESPN2 if you can't make it out there. Mountain Brook hosting Demopolis. Spain Park making a trip to Sparkman, and then the Vestavia Hills Rebels hosting Westside out of South Carolina to get the season started. They're a really good program in South Carolina in their little 4A range. So it's going to be great. Week 1, we will know really quickly where a lot of these teams stand. Not a lot of cupcakes that I see, a lot of great games, great opponents on the slate. So it's going to be a great season. Week 1 is almost here. Go follow us wherever you need to. Get ready for the Saturday morning newsletter that encapsulates everything that we covered on Friday night. And thanks for watching the first edition of the Under the Lights podcast for the 2025 season. We'll be seeing you all season long.